All right, so we got to talk about the great Coral. Coral Jean Smith, Real World, Road Rules, The Challenge, one of the best to ever do it. And she's coming back to TV. Oh, yes, she's making a lot of money. The contract is big. And that windfall of money, she definitely deserves it. Let's get random and talk about one of the greatest reality stars ever. Coral from the Real World back to New York.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.
Okay, as it may be, that is just not the truth. She definitely, or maybe to my knowledge, I don't know at least, she does not, I don't know if she's coming back to TV, but we want her to come back to TV. Coral is just one of these characters that was so good on The Real World back to New York. This was like all these seasons ago. I think it was season 10 of MTV. At the time, MTV was so huge. Being on a show, I think their season, not only they were living in the West Village, but they're also working at Atlanta Records. Like all these things that are very easy to grab now, like even the division they were working in, like promotions and marketing, doesn't really exist because everything is done digitally. And to have these moments where this was the only way you were going to be able to be sort of a fly on the wall of the record industry, the music industry, these cool, neighborhoods in New York City, like Coral was pretty much the lead, along with Mike the Miz. Mike the Miz went on to be a wrestling superstar. Now, I don't bring up Coral very much because in my mind, I'm like, well, where is she? Where is Coral? But the thing about it is, over time, it seems like everyone wants to see her back on a show. Now, Mark Long, of course, originally from Real World San Francisco, almost roommate. Remember, he was almost the roommate there. That was the first time you saw him on MTV. Then, of course, he became Road Rules superstar and then really instrumental in the Challenge All-Stars coming to Paramount Plus for those seasons. He's always talked about Coral, so there begins to be this interest, like, when is she going to get back on these shows? Any show. And then in my mind, I'm a reality TV expert. Yes, my name is Randomly Ronnie Jr., reality TV expert. If you want to show more love, patreon.com/randomly Ronnie Jr., make it rain and help me out. That's always good. But I always look at it as like, I like Coral. It was a time that I watched reality TV that was amazing, but maybe the time is over. One thing you never want to do is just because something was so monumental in you watching the TV doesn't mean that person wants to relive it. So in my mind, I'm like, maybe Coral doesn't want to do this stuff anymore. Maybe her time on reality TV was so big, but it's over now. Time to move on, So for the most part, as a reality TV expert, I'm always like, okay, she's probably living a great life, right? But then you'll see like Derrick of Road Rules, and he does the show with Scott, a comedian, and they're always with all the challenge, mania and all the events and stuff. And even Derrick is like, no, Coral is not only reality TV gold in Real World, Road Rules, and Challenge, these lanes, but she's like one of the best to ever do it. She's one of the best reality TV cast members across the board, says Derrick.
If you can include Coral in anything as soon as possible before she's completely forgotten as being the queen of reality TV, the original queen of reality TV, not just the challenges, not just Real World. After her, there's only a few other queens that have owned reality TV that came after her.
And it's like, that opens up my mind to be like, yeah, she's not just Real World, Road Rules, Challenge, a top tier at the genre of reality TV, but really one of the best ladies to ever do it. She goes up there with like a Tammy Roman. She goes up there with the Aubrey O'Day. She goes up there with the Kristen Cavallari. She goes up there with some of the Real Housewives. Like Coral, who could sit with Coral? Not many. And I had always thought that, but I always wondered if Coral just sort of, I don't want to say maxed out, but maxed out on like she was the MTV girl. But when you hear someone like Derrick, who has been so instrumental in MTV, first from Road Rules, then to the Challenge, and all the work he's doing now on the podcast, like he would know. And he sang it, and it makes me, pop culture expert, reality TV expert, say, yeah, no one does it better than Coral. So what I'm doing now is just basically manifesting that she comes back. But beyond that, I want to know why she left to begin with. There's a number of reasons this could be. Number one, there could be a time where she was blowing up. She was the big dog on MTV. And, I feel like the bigger the network sometimes, MTV at that time, sometimes they want to shortchange you. Sometimes they want to shortchange you. Sometimes they want to make it like, oh, you're lucky to get this job from us. And, you saw Coral, the way she did the show. I say what I do and I do what I say, or something like that. What was the line? I say what I do and I do what I say. Don't talk to me that way. I am an adult.
You don't have to talk to him, but you don't have to sit there and laugh at him.
I'm a grown woman. Don't tell me how to act. I'm I'm an adult.
Well, you're rude, then.
I'm an adult.
You're a rude adult.
You're more rude.
Coral was great. And there may be some truth to like who she was as the character on that reality show to how she carries her life and her business, And, imagine time after time after time, you're the star of every show you touch on MTV. And listen, if they're not, I'm not saying they got to grovel and bend over backwards for you, but what self-respect is. And maybe Coral at some point was like, no, like if I'm going to do this, pay me the big money. And Coral came in at a weird time with reality TV. Now the cast members who do like one season of Real Housewives of New Jersey, they could do one season and they could even essentially not succeed, but then they'll turn it to a successful podcast, or there's other shows they could work on and other brand deals, and they're making 6 times the amount of money that Coral should have had. Coral should have had opportunity for all that, but it's essentially a different time. And so I wonder if maybe that was one of the reasons she left reality TV. Number 2, did she leave because she was unhappy with the genre? Did she have bigger dreams? I believe on Real World, the first scene we see her in is she's on Staten Island Ferry, I believe. And then I also remember her impact because she did the Real World Road Rules casting special. And she was the most monumental and most intriguing and most eye-catching person from that series. So anywhere Coral went was huge. And I wonder that if at some point she entered this MTV world and maybe had other pursuits, modeling, acting or something, and you get pigeonholed. Not a lot of people of the now generation could understand this, but there were times, it's so crazy how much it's changed, where if you were associated with reality TV, it would not help you. It's funny because now it does help you, right? I was watching on America's Next Top Model, the little docu-series special that they were doing, and it was some of the models were talking about how back in the day, if you were on the TV show, you weren't taken seriously as a model. And that is true. And it's true in a way that nowadays people don't even understand that. Because now if you do something and you have a huge following, it actually enhances your chances, whether you're good or not. And I remember all of that. I've been working in radio for like 150 years, so I remember all of those little casting things. I remember, like, if you did a show, I did Fuse TV in 2005. I did TLC Network in 2012, 13. Like, and that's a little later. But even so, you do these things, and it kind of would prohibit you from the next thing. It potentially could prohibit you because you already, like essentially, like, say it like this. In that early stages, Coral couldn't be Coral from MTV and go to Bravo, because Bravo would have been like, well, we know her from Coral, we know her from MTV. Now that's like the way you get an opportunity. Real Housewives of Rhode Island, they got someone from The Bachelor. Real Housewives of Atlanta, they got someone from Love and Hip Hop. It changed so much. And I remember when I saw that America's Next Top Model special, that the cast members were talking about that time. And that was the truth of that time. You would not get looked at seriously. That even happened on Saved by the Bell with Jesse Spano, Kelly Kapowski, Tiffany Amber Thiessen, and Jessica Berkley. I remember hearing Tiffany Amber Thiessen try to downplay her modeling side because she needed to be looked at as a serious actress. That's how deep it was. That's why the level of art that we're getting these days is just so bad compared to what it used to be, because everyone cared about the art. Now everybody cares about the numbers, the fickle numbers at that, the really staged numbers at that. Anyways, impact. You cannot put a price on impact. And Coral, to me, I wonder if she left the business or that part of it, reality TV, at some stage, because that's not even maybe what she wanted to do. Just because she did well and shined for so many years, she might have been like wanting to get back to her modeling career, to her acting career. And number 3, why she left, I'm thinking maybe she was just over it. You do reality TV at that stage, that era, you don't have as much control. You do the show, and she might have a wonderful, beautiful relationship with Boone and Murray, the production company. John Murray, these power players in MTV and production and all these things. But essentially, you do the show and you get edited in the way that makes sense for the show. You get tons of opportunity from it, tons of other revenue sources from it, but still there's a limit. And maybe at some point, Coral doesn't want to be rough, hard ass Coral anymore. Maybe she's got 19 different sides to her and she's always being seen the same way, so it is time to leave. Maybe the hard-hitting realities of trying to quote unquote make it when you're in your 20s and 30s just don't make sense at a certain age. I've worked in radio, and so much of that I feel too. It gets sad because you put so much work into a thing, but it gets sad, right? So she could have just been burnt out and needed something different too. I'm always interested to know. Melissa, Real World New Orleans, and Coral, I believe they were roommates at some point or really close friends. Does something like that? Do they, do you just do this 155 miles an hour and then you just like over it all? What kind of, you get shot out of a cannon rather, and it's just like go time until you put the brakes on. So maybe Coral put the brakes on, wanted to go evolve, grow, and become bigger and better in her regular life. And again, I, as a commentator, would never really ever do the whole oh, Coral needs to come back, because quite honestly, there's things that you do in your career and in your life that that was back then. Go watch it on Paramount. Go watch the rerun, because you're trying to reinvent and do different things. So I always was really on this, though selfishly as a fan of this genre of TV, especially at that time, you want her to come back. You do. But you got to give grace to people don't really want to do this all the time. But now that there's enough rumblings of Mark Long always trying to push for Coral to come back, and Derrick saying, she needs to get on something soon because she's one of the best to ever do it, and we can't, she is a pioneer at reality TV, and we can't let that, slip away. No. So now that it does seem like it's full steam ahead on Coral coming back, I'm, first time I've ever done this, I'm starting a rumor. And the rumor has it that Coral is indeed signed on big money, big contract to come back. Now, where's the coming back? I don't know. She's going to be on the comeback. She's replacing Lisa Kudrow. Yes. No, but the bottom line, enough time has passed. Everyone would like to see Coral. Now, in my better judgment, I would say the perfect time for her to come back would have been on Paramount Plus when they did the Homecoming series. Homecoming was Real World season 1, 2, and 9. So New York, LA, Venice, and New Orleans. That's where Melissa, she was on that one. And then it stopped. Would have been a phenomenal choice to do Coral back to New York. You've got the name notoriety that became Mike the Miz. It seems like it's inevitable. His wonderful relationship with, John Murray, Boona Murray Productions, like he would have to give back to a place that started him off, from Ohio, jumps into this opportunity in New York City and, really succeeds. So Mike the Miz, Coral, who we have not seen in so many years, as she's got this new career, new life, we want to see it. Probably one of the most gorgeous reality TV stars to begin with. And we don't even talk enough about how wonderfully gorgeous, stunning this woman was, right? That's just like a whole nother thing. She's aged, she's evolved. What's going on with Coral? We need to know about Coral. I would venture to say there should be a reality show just around her. Don't make her do an ensemble, and don't make her travel to Scotland to film the Traitors or something like that, although that would be good too. Dancing with the Stars, so she's got to come in and out of LA, all that's good too. But do a show. John Murray should do this. Another rumor. Let's start another rumor. John Murray is doing a show with Coral, we're out in San Francisco following her life, and it's something along the lines, let's marinate on the title here. What's your Coral? Get it? Coral, I have a quarrel with you. What's your Coral? And something about people's lives that were one route, and then 25 years they're completely either trying to change or changing, because I think that's what we get with Coral. I don't know, but I think that's what we get with Coral, is that just because you saw her on the TV saying to Julie, I don't wrestle, I beat BITCHES's up, doesn't mean that's who she is today. And so you know what? Iyanla, fix my life. It's over. It's over. No more. The reimagined version of Iyanla Fix My Life is going to be, What's Your Coral? That's going to be the show. And I will help produce it. Yes. You know, I've worked in radio, but I've also worked segment production, this, that, and the other, you know, a very seasoned career, hence the double chin, because you work so darn hard and you end up looking like this in your 40s. What are you going to do? But listen, what are you going to do? Oh my gosh. And I think that's the level of storytelling we need for this new version of reality TV. Reality TV started off one way. It did. And then it went to this whole other thing. I have no interest, honestly, to watch the Love is Blind. I mean, I like Love is Blind for the sake of the production company. That's Kinetic Content. I worked a couple seasons on Kinetic Content work. This was Married at First Sight season 1 and 2. So I do love that they did very well with this Love is Blind. But the Love is Blind, the Love Island, the Temptation Island, you have to do a show where you maybe could fall in love, but if you don't, you have to go overboard. Like, what is going on with reality TV? Just let the cast members sit in a room together, have a difference of opinion, get along, and you got a show, much like the era of Coral, which means you have to have a stronger cast member. Right now, I think they don't really have Coral level reality stars these days. But again, reality TV is such a silly genre, and it does sound like it's a silly genre, but it's also an escape. It's also getting to go into this behind the scenes moment of these really interesting and entertaining lives. And yes, it's mindless, and yes, there's so many bigger issues. I get all that, but nothing could compare to like that era where there was no other option digitally. You know, digitally now you could see 20,000 things a day. You know, you could see somebody going to the bathroom, and that is not entertaining. And these shows were entertaining. And I think What's Your Coral, the show I'm going to help produce, it's ready to come back. It's ready to come back. I remember once talking with Mike Lewis, who does Mike Lewis of Challenge World. And we had done a little podcast talking about where is Coral. And even in that moment, I says, after we did the episode and lots of, support behind where, everyone wants to see Coral back on the TV. The first thing I thought of was like, yes, I agree with myself. But the second thing I thought of was, what if she's done with this? What if she's over this? Like, what if what we like, that's not what she wants for her life anymore? But it does seem like now's the right time. So, okay, casting directors for Dancing with the Stars, throw Coral top dollar. Casting directors for Peacock Streaming's The Traitors, throw Coral top dollar. Iyanla, if you've got a production company, it might be time for you to sit down and send it over to Coral. Bravo TV, Andy Cohen. Real Housewives is on its last leg in some ways. No offense, although Rhode Island has been a surprise. And Miami, who pauses Miami? It was a great season. Anyways, Andy Cohen, start thinking of shows that centralize around a character who's got life lived, and that's Coral. What's Your Coral? It's patented, however you say that, and trademarked, so it shall not be taken from me. I'm kidding, I just made it up on the spot. I got 97 different things floating around up in here. I could produce a Coral show today, tomorrow, and yesterday. No, I'm kidding. But that is the question. And also, who does Coral sit up there with, as Derrick said in that clip, as she's one of the best real reality TV ladies across the board? Who does she sit there with? Again, I think she sits there with like a Kristen Cavallari, with an Aubrey O'Day, with a Tammy Robin, maybe a Jackie Christie because of the outrageousness. Jackie Christie is like, the commitment is there, right? Heather Dubrow and Terry Dubrow, Real Housewives of OC. I love Melissa Gorga. To me, Melissa Gorga is the top of the food chain on a lot of the stuff. Larsa Pippen, but who sits with Coral? Like, who is on her level? I thought maybe there would be a Daisy of Love, or the Rock of Love, the Heather, or Megan Molly, one of the girls' names, I can't remember her name, Megan or Molly, Mallory, one of her, but she had to show that, oh, remember this? She had to show that there was a very tragic situation that had happened on her show, and then she sort of stopped doing reality TV. But it had all these, all different gamuts, all different walks of life with reality TV. You had the Newlyweds, you had the Osbournes, but that became a different style of reality TV too, because those shows, you already knew the participating characters, and then you just kind of went behind the scenes with them. Coral in her era it was as if they went to casting and they got the best of the best, and that's who came to the show. I know it from experience because I did apply for one season, where you have to fill out the 20-something questionnaire, and they do ask you go to the initial audition. I went to the initial audition, and at the end of the audition, they say, oh, can you come back and fill out one more little thing? But reality, they're saying, here, we're going to give you the packet. Go fill this out. Send us a tape. Remember, and back then, you were paying money to send the tape. So I send the tape. And that would have been the season Real World Philadelphia. On Big Brother, I had, done a couple of those things too. And, come back, fill out the thing, and you have to go to an office and an audition. So I've done a lot of those things outside of the stuff that I've done too, radio and TV experiences. But it's a lot, and it kind of is interesting how it seems minimal and trivial. Like, so who cares? Well, it was best in class. It meant that Coral was the most interesting person in the room. And we all know and think she's still the most interesting person in the room, and maybe it's time for her to get her flowers. That's all that this is. Again, when I did the episode with Mike Lewis, talking about the real world road rules, I said, where's Coral? Where's Coral? Because you're genuinely so excited, and you need it, like, for selfish reasons. I need Coral back on the TV. No one was more entertaining. Run her check. But then you do have to really sit and think and say, maybe this is nothing to revisit. I'm done. You know who I think of like that too? Ooh, I'm putting her up there too. Who gets to sit with Coral as top reality TV ladies across the board? That's Sammy. Sammy, sweetheart. I used to say this when the Jersey Shore was coming back. First thing I thought of, I says, Snooki is the star. Mike, the situation, though he's not the star, that show couldn't have taken off the way that it did if Mike wasn't instrumental in his obnoxiousness at the beginning. Like, go back and watch season 1. Mike sets the show into the tone that it becomes. He might have been a little medicated, and he might have been a little full of himself and too in his head and too strategic. That's why he ended up not being, he had some rougher seasons before he became, what did he go from, the situation to the manifestation or something? He evolved. I love Mike. He's a great reality TV star too. But when that show came back, the Jersey Shore, the family vacation, first thing I thought was, Snooki, star of the show. No, Mike, the star of the show. Vinny's fun, star of the show. And then I said, oh no, you know who the star of the show was? It was that Sammy. Sammy Sweetheart was the star of the show. And then sadly she didn't come back, which makes me think the same thing. And I could do, and I've done 250 episodes as well. I think Sammy was literally the number one most important person on that show, and she's gorgeous too, and she, I think, is like having the glow up of a lifetime. But picture this this goes to Coral. Picture this. We in our selfishness, we love to see people return to the comfort zone. For you, the viewer, I need Coral on the TV. Sammy, oh, she's my favorite. But Sammy stepped away. Sammy did several seasons sitting out of the show because it didn't work for her. And we are in a space, I tell you, I say this so much, and I only get it in my own headspace too, because, the careers that I've pursued or whatever the case, like it's been so detrimental and challenging. But one thing I always say is you can never make an allocation for how you maneuver properly for anyone else other than yourself on what works for you. So, we're in a space where desperation, it's become more and more desperate over the years. And so when you have everyone else so thirsty, they're going to take $5. And it's not even just about the money sometimes. In Sammy's situation, I imagine like it had to be the contract, the scenes that were going to be developed with Ronnie, her ex, like how that all worked. And I just know from even my own experience, sometimes when you even have something to say or question, oh my, you are really shown like, well, we've got 97 other people who are going to take this opportunity for like thousands of dollars cheaper. So what do you want to do? And it's become that. I know it from experience. And I could only think someone like Sammy had a level head that said, no, I'm not going to do the show. I'm not going to do the show right now. There's no amount of money that, you know, that could intrude on my piece. And Coral might be in the same space too. That's what I'm saying. I don't even think we need a Coral show. Now, do I want to see Coral get on the Traitors? Do I want to see Coral get on Dancing with the Stars? And, you know, tell people on the set, I don't wrestle. I beat bees up. I'd love to see it. But also, she might be a different lady. she might be a different lady at this stage. You know, we're all over 40 now. We're all getting there. We're all over 35 now, you know. So I say, give her a show. It doesn't even have to be like these giant networks like MTV or whatever the case, or Showtime or Paramount Plus, but give her a show. What's your Coral? And Coral becomes the new generation of Iyanla Fix My Life. And it's like a Coral, like an adjacent life coach who gives it to you the right way, you know, and makes you step it up and fixes, you know, what's your Coral, what's your issue. That's the show we want to see. But anyways, seems like Derrick and the people over at Challenge Mania, they want to see Coral back. Mark Long wants to see Coral back. Oh, issue with Mark Long. I mean, this is just funny, right? And again, I'm over here with the double chin. I mean, I just couldn't look more dumpy, right? But Mark Long is doing a show, and I know Mark would appreciate this, I assume. Mark, I believe, I remember meeting, did we meet Mark? Yeah, we met Mark when he did AfterBuzz 100 years ago. Anyway, Mark is doing a show, and on his green screen, he has an image of some background, and that's all good and fine, you know, it's just sometimes really hard to get your situation. You could at the least, dude, the background image is like you know, it's pulled, and it has like the watermark from whatever, you know, you're supposed to purchase that background, and it's right there behind him. He's doing a wonderful job. He's charging people for his content, which I love. I love the ambition. Imagine Mark. Imagine how Mark feels. Mark was like the star of the show as well, and he did the show right there with Kid Hoover, and she's been making Access Hollywood money for 92 years, you know, and Mark's like, you know, please watch my show. And I appreciate it, you know, not desperate, not thirsty. We in the same boat. I do get it. But the background, his background, if you saw it, it had the watermark. And to that, I say, if he's saying, subscribe to my real world TV show, The Challenge, Road Rules, exclusive content with cast members, throw him the money, because he needs to get that background fixed. He does. He needs to get that background fixed tomorrow. Because I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, Mark, he's so good at his job. Remember, he used to do the show. On, there was a network. What was the net? Was it like the TV Guide network? Mark was the big deal. He really was. And then all these years later, we find ourselves looking at Mark on the, you know, on the social medias, and he's over there with the awful background. I mean, it looks good, but there's the watermark. So when he says, subscribe to my content, you should do it. You should subscribe to it. But anyways, everybody wants to see Coral back on the TV. I feel like I've made enough reasons as to why, so long as she's in the proper headspace and wants to do this stuff again. She might not. I say throw every dollar her way. Good contract. Don't give her a contract that's God, I get so ambitious. I don't even know her. I'm so ambitious for Coral. I don't even know her. But I just do know this one thing. I'd be very upset if I was sort of early to the party. The stuff that Coral did back then, if she would have done it at a different stage, she could have had windfalls of money, but it didn't really work like that. I know this again from experience. I started Radio 1 in 2002 or 1 or something like that, and lots of limitations. I was doing 9 days of work a week, right? You know, for years. Had that been when you can pop onto the, you know, the social medias, it would have been a different ball game, you know, lots of money opportunities. So I always feel like, dang, I'm sure she's happy, but like we all know Coral deserves like Watch What Happens Live should just give her a show after Watch What Happens Live. Like, it should be Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live, and then right after that show it should be like, what does Coral think? That's it. That's the show. 30 minutes, very little preparation. Just press it on the Zoom and just, what does Coral think? You think Coral can't occupy a half hour? You throw her the right amount of paycheck? Give it to Coral. We got to get Coral back on the TV. It is my mission now, for no reason at all. Selfishly, you know, I looked at cast members of that era. They're all slightly older than me. I was born in the 80s, so you know, they're halfway to 50, if not older. But these were the people that when you were turning 18, 19, 20, 21, they were on this hit show, and they, because of the show too, ushered you into this world that was so exciting. And then, you know, years later, you lived it yourself, you know, but it was always so interesting. I always think of Cara from Real World Chicago, one of the best to ever do it. Never even did a road rules challenge. Cara, one of the best to ever do it. But yeah, we got to get Coral back on the TV. That's just the only thing I could think. Anyways, Randomly Ronnie Jr., you want to show me love, support what I do and have done forever. That's why I'm tired and grumpy. RandomlyRonnieJr.com, or of course at the Patreon, patreon.com/RandomlyRonnieJr, where we talk, or could talk, about Coral. What's your Coral for a very long time. But yeah, what do you think? Should she get back on the TV? Should she continue to protect her peace and stay kind of doing her own thing? Should she start a podcast? I mean, there's just so many things that she can do, and it might be the right time to get her back in the mix. I think everyone has an insatiable urge for that type of content, and I think it's time for it to come back. Yeah.